If you are preparing for USMLE Step 1, these mistakes can completely screw up your whole preparation. And I'm not saying this as someone who hasn't made these mistakes myself, but I corrected them thankfully before they became a serious problem. Now, if you don't want to find it the hard way, these are the 7 mistakes that you really need to avoid during your USMLE Step 1 preparation. Mistake number 1, using the wrong resources. And by wrong, I don't necessarily mean that the resource itself is bad. The resource can be excellent, but still be wrong for you. Step 1 is a massive exam. There could be an insane amount of information that you could potentially study, but you don't have unlimited time. So if you are spending hours and hours going through long textbooks and long lecture series, and you're learning every single obscure low yield information that will not even help you on the exam day, then you are doing something that is completely wrong. Essentially, you're wasting your time. So you have to ask yourself this question: is this resource actually helping me to understand the concepts for step 1? Or am I doing this because I probably feel like I should? Personally, I like to keep things concise. Use a core resource and supplement it when you have knowledge gaps, and then move on. And please don't fall into the trap thinking that the more resources I do, the more prepared I will be for step 1. If you want a detailed video on which resources and how to use each of these resources for step 1, you can watch either of these videos where I explain them in detail. Remember, resources do not give you a pass on step 1. Execution does. Mistake number 2, using the QBanks incorrectly. This is probably the most biggest mistake that I have seen students make. They open UWorld or Amboss and then they start solving questions, and then they look at their percentage and then, holy shit, I got 55%, I'm going to fail. No, that's not how it works. The main thing that your QBank is that it is acting as a learning tool, and that is the way that you are supposed to use it. When you get a question wrong, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That just means that you need to learn something that you didn't know about, right? So you always ask yourself the question that, where was I wrong? What was the concept that was being tested? What was I lacking, right? That's where the learning really happens. Don't just look at the correct answer and move on. Read every explanation carefully. Why is this answer correct? Why are the other choices wrong? What details did I miss? These are the questions that you should be asking yourself when you are going through a question in a QBank. And since you are talking about QBanks, another mistake that students make is that they delay their QBank too much, right? So they spend all of their time just studying and trying to make sure that they finish their preparation and study all of the content, and only then they will start their QBank. That's not how it's supposed to be. You are supposed to study every single system, and after studying every single system, you are supposed to do 40 questions of that specific system. When you do that, move on to the next. And when you are done with all of the systems, then you are supposed to do 40 questions on random in tutor mode every single day until the QBank is completed. This is how it's supposed to be. This is how you are supposed to integrate QBank into your normal study schedule. Mistake number 3, trying to memorize everything. This goes hand in hand with the previous mistake that I just talked about. A lot of students just obsess over the fact that they have to memorize every single page of first aid. Then they get overwhelmed. Why? Because they can't remember everything. And they think, I'm forgetting everything I've studied. Yes, that is how it's supposed to be. You probably are forgetting some of it, but that is completely normal. Like I said before, there is simply too much information for step 1 that you cannot possibly remember each and every single thing. Your goal is not to create a perfect photographic memory. Your goal is to repeatedly encounter similar concepts until the time they become familiar. Mistake number 4, being inconsistent. Now this might seem like a very simple advice, but this is actually the most hardest one to do. You cannot make your step 1 preparation based on your mood. So you study 12 hours on Monday just because you're motivated, and then on Tuesday you completely crash out. No, that's not how it's supposed to be. And I'm not asking you to study the same number of hours every single day. We are all humans. We all have some irregularities or some priorities, right? Sometimes you can have a bad day. Sometimes you can have your university exams. There can be many stuff. That's normal. But you need to have a baseline. If you have a study schedule, follow it. If on that particular day you need to study 3 hours, complete your 3 hours. If you need to study 6 hours, complete your 6 hours, right? But don't let one bad day turn into a whole bad week. This exam requires discipline more than motivation. It's not just a game of knowledge, it's a game of mental strength and stamina also. Like I've said before, from the start of your preparation, from the first day up until your test day, you are being evaluated on your mental strength and stamina. Mistake number 5, letting anxiety destroy your whole performance. And this one is absolutely vital. A little bit of anxiety is completely normal for step 1, but letting it interfere with your performance, that is disastrous. Imagine you have prepared for months, right? And you have studied every single day. You have been consistent. You have been solving questions. You have been getting pretty good NBME scores. And then you book your test date. And when you finally go and sit down for the real deal, you completely crash out just because of the one question that you see in front of you. That is not how it works. This exam, as I've said before and reiterated it multiple times, is a test of mental strength and stamina. Have you ever thought, why is this exam of 7 hours with 1 hour of break time, so total of 8 hours? So again, they're not just testing your knowledge, they're also testing how much can you keep up. In my personal experience, when I went to the exam and I saw the first 3 blocks of questions, which were around like 60 questions, I did not know what the answer was in each and every single one of them. And even to this day, I cannot even recall the questions. That's how difficult they were. But when I took a break of 5 minutes, I refreshed myself, I came back, every single thing ran like clockwork. I treated the exam in front of me the same way I treated the rest of my NBMEs. And then I got the pass. So this is what you're supposed to do. Just don't crash out, trust your preparation, trust your decision-making choices, and just pick the correct answer and move on. Don't think back on it. Mistake number 6, wasting time and second-guessing yourself. This was a personal problem with me. Not with time wasting, but with second-guessing myself. So let's say a question comes up, right? Let's say on a QBank. You spend some time on it. You reread the stem. You don't understand what's going on. So you reread the stem again. And then you look at the answer choices and you still don't know. And that is how you have just wasted 3 minutes of your time that could have been spent on a different question which was much easier and which you could have gotten right. So again, if you know the question and if you know the answer, just pick your answer and move on. If you can narrow it down to 2 choices, pick the one that feels the best and then move on. And finally, if you don't even know what to choose, just fluke it and then move on. Don't look back at it. There's a reason why I'm telling this, because when I was giving NBMEs, time management was never an issue for me, right? So I always used to have 5 minutes to spare at the end of each block and I used to end it. But on the real deal, when the questions started getting a little bit much more tougher, I struggled with time. But I quickly just came back to my roots and I said, okay, if I know the answer, I'm going to choose it. If I don't, I'm going to fluke it. That should be your strategy, okay? If you know the answer, or if you have narrowed it down to 2 choices, just choose your gut feeling. Whatever your gut feeling says, that's going to be the answer a lot of the times. Why? Because I have seen people change their answer choice just because it doesn't feel right. That's not how it's supposed to be. Change your answer choice only if you know that the answer choice that you have chosen right now is wrong. You have concrete evidence that this answer choice is wrong. That's the only way that you are going to change your answer choice. Other than that, please don't change your answer choice, no matter what. Mistake number 7, rushing your exam and ignoring your assessments. You can study all of the resources. You can study first aid, you can study pathoma, sketchy, boot camp. You can do all of them, but it still does not mean that you're ready for the exam. The NBMEs aren't there to entertain you. They are your assessment tools. If your NBMEs are low, right, if you're scoring around 50 to 60% and they are low, so you do not rush the exam. You first analyze your performance. Where was I wrong? What concepts do I lack? Where am I getting questions wrong? Is my thinking process correct? All of these things that you should be asking yourself, you should be doing this when you are analyzing your performance on an NBME, right? So if you get a low score at start, don't worry, everyone does, right? So let's say you get 65%, right? Which is not a bad score by all means, but still, you need around 70% or greater in 3 or greater than 3 NBMEs in order to make yourself be more comfortable and make yourself a cushion, right? So you need to have a cushion. The reason being because the exam day, there can be a lot of factors, right? You can have a new environment, you can have a new test environment, or you're not familiar with the question writing style. So a lot of factors can come in and they can get you some questions wrong. But because you had a cushion, you will still pass when you get the result. So it's all about having that leeway or the cushion that you need on test day. That is the reason why I stress on 70% or greater on 3 or more greater NBMEs. So finally, if you found this video helpful, make sure to like, subscribe and comment down on what aspect of step 1 preparation should I make a video on. And until next time, I will see you all. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.